Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in. So in this video, I'll share 3 books that can be helpful for special education teachers as well as general education teachers. And I won't go into depth about what the books are about. I'll simply read the title, the author, and show the book. And to make this video a tad bit longer, I'll just share some tips of things that I've done in the classroom to benefit my special education students. So the first book, the title is How to Differentiate Instruction in Academically Diverse Classrooms by Carol Ann Tomlinson. The next book is Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain by Zaretta Hammond. And there are many books, but the third book that I have is The Brain Targeted Teaching Model by Marielle Hardiman. And so each of these books have given me insight on how to be an effective educator, helping me think about any bias that I may have and how to rid myself of those behaviors, how to also incorporate student interest in the classroom, student culture, and the norms of the students in the classroom setting, and how to really think about catering to the whole child and meeting my special education students' needs. But again, these books can also be used by general educators because some of the tactics that are expressed are beneficial for students with and without disabilities. And then you're thinking about what are my students' needs and how can I best meet their needs. And then in the special education setting, I have a variety of student needs that I'm working towards. And so I'm thinking, how can I structure my lessons while still meeting the universal and diverse needs of the students that I'm working with? So I look at my students' supplementary aids and services and accommodations. And one student might have an accommodation of having the text read aloud to them. And another student might have an accommodation of repeated instruction or paraphrased directions. So if a student is in the setting and then the student that has information read aloud to them, like all students will just listen as I read the information aloud to everyone, so all students can benefit from that support. And then on paraphrased instruction, I might be working with the student one-on-one and I'm reading something to him that he doesn't understand. So then if it's unclear to him, I'm thinking about how can I rephrase the information that I'm sharing with him to make sure that he has access to the curriculum. So when you're thinking about the supplementary aids and services and accommodations, there might be a resource that you're implementing that's needed by one student, but the entire class can benefit. So during a lesson, you might, ask students questions to gauge their understanding of something, but one student's need might be, to ask them questions or to paraphrase information so they understand. So you might be working with the full class, but still meeting one student's needs. And then in other areas, you're meeting another student's needs when you're working with them in small group or one-on-one. And so you're thinking about how am I structuring lessons to meet the variety of students' needs. When I'm working with my students in small group for phonics, as an example, students are working towards phonics goals where they're able to express letter sounds, read sight words, read high frequency words, and one student's goals and objectives might not match up with another student's, but that one lesson can still touch on points where I'm meeting the needs of both students. Both students' objectives are incorporated into the lesson to help them work toward their IEP goals. And then when I'm working with students in the general education setting, I'm still thinking about how I'm working toward helping the student gain access to that grade level material while still meeting their IEP goals. So if the teacher has given the students a learning target that they're working towards, I might work with my small group in the general education classroom to make sure that all of my students understand keywords in the learning target. So as an example, if the learning target says students will be able to emphasize how a poet creates new poems, then we would probably define the word emphasize, because even though my students are in 4th grade, they perform at varying levels. So I'd make sure that they understand that emphasize means to explain, detail, highlight, or note. Those are different ways that you can help them understand what the meaning of emphasize might mean. And then aside from that, if the students are working on an assignment where they're reading a specific book for a few weeks during class, I'll take note of what the lesson's goals are, and I'll even read the book with students, and sometimes read material from the book in advance so I can know what the lesson will look like for students before they start the lesson. And then as students are working on their assignments related to the book, I'm helping my students define keywords. So I might create a word bank for them, and then that word bank can help them write sentences, or in defining keywords, we're using context clues. So I'll help them read a sentence and then ask them what they think a word means based on what the other parts of the sentence say. So helping them define keywords. And then the word bank or the sentence starter can be beneficial when students are writing sentences. As an example, if they're writing their own poem, then they could probably use some of the words from the word bank to incorporate in their poem. So if they were specifically given a haiku poem as an example to write, a haiku poem is a 3-line poem with 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, and 5 syllables in the third line. So although my students may have an idea of the topic that they would want to write on, they sometimes face challenges with thinking of what to discuss related to the topic. So I could give them some keywords to use based on the topic. And then as they're forming sentences, we can tap it out together to see if the sentences meet that 575 syllable word count. So there are a variety of ways where I'm thinking about what my students' needs are, how I can help them one-on-one, how I can help them in the group setting, how I can help them one-on-one and in the group setting in the general education classroom, and how I can also help them one-on-one and in the group setting in our small group space. So just listening to your students so you get a better idea of what their needs are, and tapping into your resources, aside from me learning things from my students' IEP report from the prior year, which helps me know where my students performed last year. I'm also looking at their current IEP to learn information about them. I meet with the general education teachers on a weekly basis to learn, aside from what I witnessed the students experiencing in the gen ed setting, what are you noticing? How's the students' homework completion? Are the students showing a certain level of comprehension? Do they need more guidance? If they're struggling in this area, that helps me understand what new goal I can create for them when I'm attending their annual IEP meeting, what new supplementary aid and service or accommodation they might need, or which ones they might need to have removed, because we're not only looking at the areas that need improvement or areas where there's the opportunity to grow, we're looking at their strength areas, and we're thinking about, is this a student that has done very well in a certain area? Have they progressed much better than originally anticipated? And do we need to rework that goal, or do we need to remove a goal? So it's just being in the environment, immersing yourself in the space to learn your students, tapping into resources such as the books that I've shared that can be beneficial and share helpful insight, talking to general educators and even other special educators, and just having that network of people to build with and to grow from. So I hope this video was helpful. Let me know if you all check out any of these books, and also comment below any book suggestions you might have that can help a teacher in the general ed or special ed setting. and what tips that work well for you when you're working with your students. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.